Hello, ghosties. I'm Chance Lee,
And I'm Amanda McAvoy.
and this is That's So Gothic, a movie podcast about girls, guys, and haunted houses. And today's movie is about something that was fresh in the 60s, but post COVID, anybody who works with children has to deal with it on a daily basis. Literal children of Satan. We're talking
Yes.
about Rosemary's Baby.
Paramount Pictures presents Mia Farrow in a William Castle production, Rosemary's Baby. Co-starring John Cassavetes, Ruth Gordan, Sidney Blackmer, Morris Evans, and Ralph Bellamy. Written for the screen and directed by Roman Polanski, from the best-selling novel by Ira Levin. Suggested for mature audiences.
Released in 1968, Rosemary's Baby was directed by convicted rapist and fugitive
hmm
Roman Polanski. Um, just get that out of the way
Yeah,
off
right.
the bat. It stars Mia Farrow as Rosemary, the titular mother. I love the word titular.
Titular.
Um, John Cassavetes as Guy, her actor husband.
hmm
Rose Gordan as Minnie Castevet, a Satan worshipping old lady, and star of Beethoven and Beethoven's Second, the dog movies, Charles Grodin
Stop.
as Dr. Hill in his
Oh,
first movie role.
wow.
So this is the story of a woman, well, raped by Satan and forced to
hmm
have his baby. And it's based on the novel of the same name by Ira Levin. So, and it's like a cultural phenomenon. Like, even if you
hmm
haven't seen this movie, you've seen this movie.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And everyone did see it back in the day. It made $33 million against a $3 million budget.
Wow.
Roger Ebert was writing at this time and reviewed it.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
he said that he gave it 4 stars and says that it is a brooding, macabre film filled with a sense of unthinkable danger. Strangely enough, he says, it also has an eerie sense of humor almost until the end. It is a creepy film and a crawly film and a film filled with things that go bump in the night. It is very good.
Very succinct. I like that. Good job.
In case you didn't get that, it is
Yep.
very good.
It is very good.
It has a 96% critical tomato
Wow.
and an 87% popcorn meter rating, which is what they're now calling the audience tomato. It's a little bucket
Yes.
of popcorn. And popcorn meter is all one word.
Oh, oh, oh. Okay.
I don't think this is going to last, but
No.
anyway. Yeah, so what did you think of this movie?
I loved it. It's funny actually how you said, even if you haven't seen this movie, you've probably seen it. I would have told you I've seen this movie before. I put it on and I was like, I don't know that I have, or at least the last time or the first time I watched it, I was not paying enough attention because in my mind, I always remembered this movie as pretty much being a trapped room movie. Like it all happened in the apartment building. But there's a lot of interesting like not B plots necessarily, but there's characters outside of the apartment building. There's times where she's going outside and, interacting with people, and it made the movie very like interesting and dynamic to me. Yeah, like I thought it was just this like woman trapped in an apartment sort of movie, but it's not. And I think that adds to the creep level so much more. I don't know about you, but one of the scariest like horror tropes to me is like horror in an apartment building, because you feel
Mm.
like you should be safe, like there's people all around you, but especially in this case it's like those people are working against you, and you're in the middle of this like super busy city. So like genuinely terrifying to me. But yeah, I loved this movie. I think it's wonderful. Mia Farrow is so good in it. All of the other performances are incredible. It's great. Beautiful apartment building.
I love their apartment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I like the story. I
Yeah.
have a hard time connecting with the movie, and I'm not quite sure why, but I like
Okay.
the story of it. And I read the book before this podcast, and I know I had watched the movie before, but I
Mm-hmm.
obviously was not paying attention
Yeah.
because the book, a lot of the plot elements came as a surprise to me, which
Mm,
I mean, the major plot elements, like her husband was the one who set this into motion. Like I
right.
had forgotten that completely. And in the
Mhm.
book, it's very, it's kind of subtle the way it works. And I was like, I think the husband's behind this.
Yeah.
Like I still had that suspense with it.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
And it's funny what you said about the apartment building. I don't know which edition of the book I was reading, but it had a foreword
Mm,
and of course I forgot to write who wrote the foreword, but I think it was Peter Straub, was a
oh
horror
yeah.
writer. He collaborated with Stephen King a few times.
Yep.
He said that then they're talking about the gothic horror of Rosemary's Baby.
Mm,
And he says, before, if you left society, you were in danger. Now, if you remained in this deranged, corrupt civilization, you were in greater peril. In ironic contrast to established Gothic precedent, the safest interlude is when Rosemary abandons her city life and escapes to an isolated cabin in the wilderness. I think this is only in the book,
mm.
eating canned chili and fuming over her husband's erratic behavior. That isolated, lonely place where in past narratives she'd meet her ex murderer. In Levin's new urban Gothic tale, it's become a sanctuary. And he talks about that, how, yeah, just what you said, being
Yeah.
trapped in the apartment building.
Wow. That's a much more eloquent way to put what I was saying, but it's like, it's very true. Like you're more tense when she's behind her apartment door. Usually that's the place of safety, of sanctuary. But when she gets there, that's when like the tension ramps up. Even like when she's in the basement, like the basement doesn't feel as creepy as like her apartment, because you sort of in the back of your mind know that that is where she's the least safe.
And it's creepy from the get-go. There's
Yeah.
that door that's blocked by the dresser, and
Mm-hmm.
they're moving in because an old woman died in there.
Yeah. Right. Right. Did you watch? I'm not sure if we'll talk about it a little bit later, but did you watch the new Apartment 7A?
I watched half of it, and
Yeah.
then I turned it off because I was sleepy,
Yeah.
and I kind of forgot I had even started it.
Yeah. I honestly kind of forgot about it. I would have probably watched it regardless of us talking about Rosemary's Baby today. I probably would have completely forgotten about it as soon as I turned off the movie. It's not very good. And one of my biggest criticisms about it is I feel like they play a lot more into the supernatural of the movie.
Mm,
There's a lot more of those like creepy jump scares, and you know, the supernatural is very real in that movie and very much like torturing Rosemary. I like how in Rosemary's Baby, it's very subtle. Technically, you don't even know if there is something actually supernatural happening.
mhm.
Um, it is kind of a psychological horror in that way. It's the other people in the building, but how much is that affected by the supernatural elements. And I just really enjoy that about the movie is it's not overtly, yes, there's like witches and demonology and stuff, but there isn't a ghost, like hiding in their closet. But it's very creepy, like you said, like with the hidden, closet and the, little nooks and crannies and stuff. I love it.
There's also a 2014 adaptation with Zoe Saldana.
Mm,
Have you watched that one?
I didn't. I wanted to.
So I did watch that.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
Really?
It has poor reviews on Letterboxd because it's a remake of a classic. That's the only
Right.
people just write it off because of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I really liked it. I liked that it's updated. So
Mm.
they didn't try to set it in the 60s and they didn't
Mm.
keep the same story but put it in the 2000s, which wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So she is married to a writer this time instead of an actor.
Uh-huh.
They live in Paris instead of being friends with some random old man who was her neighbor years ago.
Yeah.
She has a female friend who is her age.
Okay.
And the neighbors, the creepy old neighbors, they're still older,
Mm.
but they're young enough to be hot. So one of them is played by Jason Isaacs from
Oh,
Cure for Wellness.
yes.
They add in, for no reason, I think, other than doing it, this weird lesbianism between her and Rosemary. She'll kiss her
Ooh,
sometimes, and I don't know.
I
I
love
really
it.
like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they do that. And this was made for NBC
Oh,
in 2014, but that was around a time when Hannibal was on the air,
right.
and the amount of graphic violence that they were showing on network television was really startling. So this one does get updated with some pretty shocking, gory events to it.
Really?
And I love that shit.
Yeah.
So I really liked it. And I have a hard time connecting with Mia Farrow
Mm,
in this role. I have a hard time with the 60s acting in
yes.
general.
Hmm.
And the movie is a very faithful adaptation of the book down to the dialogue. But a lot of the quote unquote dialogue in the book is in her head.
Mm,
And so the movie makes her verbalize her internal thoughts, sometimes when she's all by herself.
yes. Yeah.
And it just makes the character seem like kind of a nitwit to me.
Yeah, she comes off as very like ditzy. I kind of assumed it was because she was portraying this, she keeps saying it somewhere random, like Michigan or
She might
somewhere
as well
like,
be from Kalamazoo, Michigan, just like
yeah,
Lily.
yeah, exactly. So I kind of assumed she was trying, it was almost her being this like bodunk, you know, now she's in a big city kind of
Mhm.
gal, but I get where you're coming from in that she does come off as a little airheady.
Yeah, yours I think you have the accurate reading on it.
Mm.
I just can't put myself in those shoes.
Yes.
So I loved Zoe Saldana in
Mm.
the remake. She's just fantastic. And the witch's name instead of Minnie is Margot.
Oh, Margot. Oh,
Mhm.
that is
But
much sexier.
she's hot, and
Mm.
it follows the same plot beats
Mm-hmm.
even if the details are different.
Mm.
And I kind of recommend it in a way because you don't have to carry that Roman Polanski baggage.
Ooh, yeah, yeah. That's a that's a good sell on it, honestly.
Well, because when I was watching it, I was like, why? And
Yeah.
I think that's the most reductive question to ask about a remake, because when people are like, why did this need to be made? The original movie didn't need to be made. The book didn't
Right.
need to be written. That's a dumb criticism. But
Yes.
I still found myself asking that question. Why did they do this? Or maybe why
Right.
did they do this in 2014 on NBC? But
Mm-hmm.
part of it in my head was you can then separate it from a
Yeah.
lot of the baggage that it carries with it.
That's a good point, and I do appreciate it when a remake isn't a shot for shot remake, and I like when it's updated to be with the times.
Mhm.
Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but I at least appreciate the effort.
And the acting style being modern
Yes.
I connect better with that than
Yeah,
the kinda it's very stagey to me.
it is.
Um, and in his later years, because Roman Polanski is still alive
I just looked
and
that up. I cannot believe that.
still directing and has worked with many people,
Yes. Yeah.
despite being arrested in 1977 for drugging and raping a 13-year-old girl.
Mhm.
He fled the country and has never come back.
Yep.
And he's worked with Adrian Brody, Johnny Depp, Kate Winslet, many people. Anyway,
Yes.
like,
Yep.
it really annoys me.
Yeah.
Annoys is a minor word. Um,
Yeah.
but he's a couple of his movies are adaptations of stage plays. So he
Oh,
seems
really?
like a very stagey
Yeah.
director to me.
Well, he's probably full of shit, so it's probably part of it.
He's yes.
Yeah.
There is an article I will link to in our show notes that if you're interested in learning more, anyone who's listening can read it. It's from The Guardian by an author named Hadley Freeman. And it is basically, why does Hollywood have so much reverence for this child rapist?
Yeah.
Why does everyone work with him? And there is a really good paragraph that I'll share, and then we'll move on from this topic. Um, which she's talking about Harvey Weinstein and when that happened and the Me Too movement started, but people still like kind of excuse Polanski.
Yeah.
And so so someone asked Meryl Streep about working with Harvey Weinstein, and she said she didn't know about it. I don't tacitly approve of rape. And then the author mentions a decade and a half earlier, Streep stood and applauded when Polanski won Best Director at the 2003 Oscars, not so much tacitly approving rape as explicitly celebrating a convicted child rapist. So there's a lot going on there,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's a mess that is not this podcast, but
Yes.
we have to exercise that demon before we
Exactly.
can. It's like worse than Satan in a sense, like,
It is.
and also not to mention he was married to Sharon Tate when she
Yeah.
was murdered by the Manson family. Like,
Mhm.
I
Yes.
mean, there's a lot going on with this guy.
Yes. He's lived a life for sure. And
He's lived a
I
life.
just listened to I won't bring it up too much because I actually don't think it really deals with this movie. It was good to listen to for context of like the late 60s. But I listened to Chaos, the book about Charles Manson and the CIA. And the only thing I'll mention right now about it is that I, the book goes through a lot of like different conspiracy theories and like what might be true, what is true, whatever, going through sort of the climate of the late 60s. So, and obviously Roman Polanski gets brought up because he was the husband of Sharon Tate. And, there's some conspiracy theories that he had a lot more to do with the murders. I'm not going to go into that. I don't necessarily 100% believe that. But his behavior after the murders, he's a piece of shit. He basically, like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but like he didn't want to go there like immediate, like he basically like dragged his feet getting there. he
Mm.
he just, I think too, like, I don't know, feel free to look into it if you're interested, but all I remember is I got just major bad vibes from him even at that
Mhm.
point. Obviously it's a traumatic event, you can't judge someone too much about how they react to a situation like that. Like, it's horrible, but fuck that guy.
He seems pretty rotten, to
Yeah.
say the least.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I interesting that you listened to that book
Hmm.
because the Rosemary's Baby book was published a year before the movie. This was like fast tracked
Oh, wow.
to production. And to me, the book is about that 60s paranoia. It's about
Yes.
post Kennedy assassination. It's at the cusp of Watergate. Like, there's so
Hmm.
much shit happening. And the book does such a nice job of crystallizing that into this paranoid story.
Yes, people were definitely, it's funny because when you think of like the Satanic Panic, I know I at least think of like more the 80s and the 90s. I know that's when I think like television really like took off with that and the news and things like that. But I feel like there was, there's so much societal change in the late 60s that I think, the general populace was really nervous about the change. They were really nervous about, um, the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
There's, a very interesting aspect of the book is just there's this whole climate of really questioning the more liberal leftists of the country and sort of what their um, goals were. And I don't, this is a stretch, but like, I don't know if maybe this, like Rosemary's Baby, is kind of like a reaction to, I guess maybe it's not a stretch. It's probably exactly actually a point of it is the reaction to women wanting to have more autonomy over their bodies, birth
Mm-hmm.
control. Roe v. Wade was passed, or the court case was in 72, 78, I forget, but sometime in the 70s. So, there's definitely like this bubbling change happening. And then obviously, there's the Summer of Love in 67. So that would have been right after this movie was released, right?
Right before. So
Right
that would have been the
before.
summer the book was released. Yeah.
Yep. So I think like the years between 1967 and 1969, I think are some of the most fascinating in American history because you go from the Summer of Love to the Manson murders. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like two opposite ends of the spectrum. So there's like this level of openness and trusting and like loving your community, but it's also starting to go the complete opposite direction of terror and, just horrifying experiences and a lot of paranoia.
Mm-hmm. It seems like the most volatile
Yeah.
time. And it seems like there are echoes of that today.
Yes. I mean, I was going to try to look into it more, but honestly, there's a lot of information on it. It's a little overwhelming because it seems like now, I mean, we just talked about Immaculate, and then there was the Omen movie,
First Omen, yep.
First Omen. It seems like we're going back now and doing a lot of these movies about these pregnant
Mm.
women horror movies. Like there
Mm-hmm.
has to be a connection. I mean, now we're living post Roe v. Wade, and this was
Mm-hmm.
right before Roe v. Wade. It's just kind of funny to me. I'm sure that there are people who are much more well versed and eloquent in this who have made that connection and who have a better understanding of like what it means, but it's definitely something to be said.
Roe v. Wade, you mean Rosemary v. Wade.
Ah, exactly.
Awful. Awful. So let's talk about the actors in this
Yes.
movie. We've said a bit about Mia Farrow.
Mm-hmm.
She's also tied to another alleged. This one's an alleged Hollywood sex predator, Woody
Yes.
Allen. That woman's got some connections.
Yes.
Let's play a game.
Okay.
Let's play a higher or lower game,
Okay.
and you're gonna guess how many children Mia Farrow has.
Ooh, okay. I think I might kind of know this.
Okay, go.
She has like 13, right?
A little bit more.
15?
14.
14. I knew she had a lot because she's adopted a lot of children.
She adopted 10. She
Yes.
has 4 biological children. 3 of her adopted children have sadly died, 2 by
Oh.
suicide.
Oh.
And to bring a little bit of levity to this sad situation, do you remember quote Mia Farrow and her black children, that meme?
No.
So in this was maybe in like 2014,
Yeah.
Mia Farrow on Twitter posted a tweet, happy 21st birthday to my daughter Quincy.
Mm-hmm.
The photo of her was a iPhone screenshot of a Google image search, in which she had searched the phrase Mia Farrow and her black children.
I kind of remember that.
I was just like, it was, I think about that all the time.
What an ultimate boomer thing to do, too. Like, I'm not even mad. I love that.
It's so funny.
Oh.
Anything else to say about Mia Farrow? You've
The
said
only
a lot of complimentary things about her. I love her
yes,
clothes. I'll put that
I
out there. I love her
love her
clothes.
clothes. I
And a lot
love
of them
her.
were hers.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so cute. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that makes sense because it just compliments her so well. Um, I love her. You know, she of course has the iconic super short hair, and
Love the haircut.
every single time I see a picture of her when I was watching this movie, I just think of, and I think I've brought up America's Next Top Model before on this podcast. I used to be obsessed with it growing up. And I just remember, you know, it's always like episode 3 or something. Tyra gives all the girls makeovers. And one of them, she said, "You're going, shh, Rosemary's Baby, Mia Farrow." That's what she said to the girl. And I hadn't even watched Rosemary's Baby, definitely by that point. And it's so funny to me that that's like just such a major part of the zeitgeist is like Mia Farrow's short hair and Rosemary's Baby, that I'm more familiar with the hairstyle than I am the movie.
That hairstyle lived a life of its own.
Yes.
It's ironic that the people in the movie seem to hate it.
Oh yeah, I
But
didn't pick up
her,
on that.
her husband doesn't like it.
Yeah.
And maybe it's in the book more. He calls it a mistake a lot in the
Oh,
book.
that's funny. Yeah,
But
it's incredible.
It's incredible.
Yeah. Oh, so that's funny. So she cuts it in the book. So the haircut wasn't like a Mia Farrow choice. Wow.
She not only cuts it in the book, but they down to the Vidal Sassoon haircut. It's Vidal Sassoon.
Ooh, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the husband is played by John Cassavetes, who's
Mhm.
also a film director. In film people love him.
Yeah. I don't know anything about him. I like his last name. It's very fun.
It's very interesting too, because the witch man is named Roman Castevet, which it just
Yes.
sounds a lot like both Roman Polanski and John Cassavetes.
Yeah, it's very confusing. Is that his name in the book though?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, it's a little bit confusing.
Mm-hmm. And then we have Rose Gordan, who plays Minnie. She won Best Supporting Actress for this role.
Yeah. I don't know if it's best supporting actress level, but it's fun. I mean, I don't know if that's her natural voice, but boy oh boy, is she a presence.
Maybe I would like it better, yeah, if I had seen her in something else. I'm not sure.
Right.
But I also, this is going to make no sense to anyone, and it doesn't even make sense to me. But there's a face she makes a lot in the movie. She kind of like will twitch her lip or do this little half smile. And it reminds me of George W. Bush in like old lady drag.
I can see that, honestly, yeah.
He used to have this little shit-eating grin he'd
Yes.
put on after he said something usually hateful that he thought was really smart.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. That is so funny. Yeah.
And I can't separate that either from the part.
You should have been cast in the Zoe Saldana.
That would have been great. I looked up who else was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, thinking maybe it was really weak here. And I didn't know 3 of the nominees.
Oh, okay.
And the 4th nominee was Estelle Parsons. She is best known for playing Roseanne's mom on the sitcom.
Yeah.
She was nominated for a movie called Rachel, which I've never seen. But she is in Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh.
Which came out around this time. Bonnie and Clyde was 67 the year before, and she's fantastic in Bonnie and Clyde. So
interesting.
I think she was robbed.
She was robbed, yeah.
And then so last but not least, we'll talk about the author really quick, just because I went overboard into Ira Levin-dom. He wrote the book. He wrote 7 novels over the course of his career. All of them except for one were made into movies. And the one that was not made into a movie is the sequel to Rosemary's Baby that was published in 1997.
Oh, it was published that much later?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's called Son of Rosemary, and everyone hates it. I really liked it. It's a
Yeah.
fun read, and a lot of the story. I find Ira Levin such a good writer. I love him now. He's like a favorite writer of mine. His writing style is so clean and crisp, and it just flows.
Yeah.
And me, as someone who can't visualize, I really like that he uses simple, direct descriptions and gets right to the point.
Yeah.
He's just so readable.
Mhm.
But so much of Rosemary's Baby was almost like accidental. He decided that the baby needed to be born on June 25th to be
Mhm.
opposite Jesus's birth in December.
Nice.
And then so that was his starting point. And then he counted backwards 9 months, and he did research into like what's been going on in New York during this time,
Mm.
and found out that the Pope had visited, there was the blackout. And so he puts all that in to make it feel very real. He
Oh.
swears he didn't realize at the time that it was June 1966 or 666.
Oh.
He swears he didn't realize that part.
Yeah.
And then he set Son of Rosemary in 1999 because Rosemary's son will be 33, which is his Jesus year, just like the
Oh.
Penguin from
Just like
Batman
the
Returns,
of course. Yeah. More important than Jesus.
and makes it at this cusp of the new millennium. So it's 1999 going into
Mm.
2000. And the concept of Son of Rosemary is that Rosemary has decided to raise her baby.
Yeah.
Because Satan might be the dad, but she's the mom, and like
Yeah.
maybe she can change the baby, even though by being a good mother.
I can change him. Yeah.
She gets put into a witch coma when the baby is like 6, because she's going to take the baby to San Francisco. So they
Okay.
cast a spell and put her in a coma.
Naturally.
And she's in a coma for like 25 years, until the whole coven dies. So the last member of the coven gets hit by a taxi cab and she wakes up.
I love
And
that.
the concept is so good, honestly. It's 1999. She
Yep.
has to be like, where the fuck am I? Why do I look like my Aunt Sue? Like, what what's going on? And then she reconnects with her son,
Yeah.
who is this magical figure. He looks like a normal person.
Right.
Anyone who sees him instantly like falls for him.
Oh.
And he has been broadcasting his image across the world because his image just brings peace. And so the world conflict has been ebbing as he
Mm.
has been spreading his message. As a side note, this is the exact plot of the 5th season of the TV show Angel. And so reading this, I was like, I think they stole this from Son of
Yeah.
Rosemary. There's a lot of weird shit in it. Rosemary and her son have this sexual tension, that's very bizarre.
Yeah.
And there's a lot.
Yeah.
And the ending is why people don't like it.
Oh, okay.
I'll just put it that way. I don't want to
Okay.
spoil the ending.
Yeah, because I do think I want to read that. So
Highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Even if you hate the ending, it's a fun ride.
okay.
He also wrote The Stepford Wives,
Mhm.
which I read and loved it. Loved that book. So
Really?
good.
Yeah.
I tried to watch the Nicole Kidman movie and had to turn it off.
Really?
Awful movie.
Really? Oh, okay.
And then he wrote Sliver, that the Sharon Stone movie that I like is based
Right.
on. And I didn't like the book as much.
Mm.
But anyway, enough about him.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the movie and talk about our Gothic elements. Gothic
right.
films have 4 elements: a girl, a guy, a house, and a haunt. Our girl, Rosemary.
Rosemary, Rosie.
What can we say about her that hasn't been said already?
I mean, I think we covered a lot of it. She wants kids. She wants a family. She's, I believe, just like a stay-at-home, wife turned mother. She doesn't really
Mhm.
have a career. She is dealing with some religious trauma, which is kind of like a little bit of a back on her.
Mm-hmm.
I think she went to like a Catholic school or something. She talks about the nuns.
Mm-hmm.
She has siblings, I believe.
Who she doesn't really get along with.
Right, right. Yeah, oh yeah, she's not close with her family. Um, yeah, I mean, I think we covered a lot of the bases with Rosemary.
I think she is a textbook gothic
Yeah.
girly. As you said, she comes from the Midwest,
Yep.
naive but curious.
Mm-hmm.
She is in the situation beyond her control. She's
Mm-hmm.
isolated from her family, from her faith,
Yep.
uh, from any sort of career, which she never see. Which she, I mean, I think she worked, but not anymore. And when she
Yeah.
got married, you stay at home because it was 1968.
Right.
And she does go through a bit of a journey. I like the second half of the movie when she's like pregnant detective
Yeah.
instead of young nitwit early on. Like
Yes.
she just really has to wise up and start figuring out things. And so I like that part. Like they're giving her pills, and
They,
in the movie she like hides them under her
yeah.
headboard.
Yes. And they still make her, well, I mean, you have to, after you give birth, she's pumping and they're
Mm-hmm.
taking the milk away, which really bothered me because I'm like, they couldn't even spring for formula. Like, because that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what
Very rude.
ends up giving them away, but continue.
So she ends up slipping the pills, crushing them up, and putting them into one of the old lady's drinks to sneak
Oh,
out, which is a great moment in the book because she doesn't care. She's like, this could kill this old woman, but I don't care. I got to get to my baby. And
right.
I just loved that part of her character in the book.
Yeah. I do like you said, the second half where it's a little bit more of a mystery, her piecing things together, bringing it up again. That's why I did not like this new apartment 7A because it's just like there's a moment of like exposition dump. I think she just like opens up one random book and all of the answers are there. Um,
Mm,
I mean, Rosemary's Baby is fairly long. It's like 2 hours and 20 minutes or something. Um, so you get a lot more time with Rosemary kind of going from it's not just, I mean, she has a book, but she has to like find one aspect from this and like talk about it over here and then, put together some pieces. So yeah, she does kind of wise up, I guess, a little bit.
yeah, and I do like the choice she makes at the end. I think
Hmm.
it's the most interesting choice.
Yes, I agree.
We have our guy. His name is Guy.
His name is literally Guy. He's the blueprint.
He really is. He
Yeah.
is, to me, though, there's something that's almost more sinister about Guy to me
Yes.
than a lot of the Gothic guys, because a lot of the Gothic guys, the textbook Gothic guys, lure the woman in from the beginning. But
Yes.
they, I believe this was a couple that was actually in
Yeah.
love, and
Yep.
he betrays her for his own fame,
Yeah. Absolutely. I
which
mean,
to me is worse.
I agree. I mean, I think it's really sick and twisted, especially because, he talks about having children with her someday, and even though it's not biologically his child, it's the literal devil's child. I mean, that's your wife that you're with for 9 months being pregnant. Like, you have to form some sort of attachment to that child. Yeah, like you said, like him just basically selling her out. And then the absolute gaslighting of it too. I mean, she has horrible pain at the beginning of her pregnancy. And he's not even taking her seriously when he knows that there's something probably very wrong with her pregnancy because he knows what it's from. Um, yeah, I mean, he sucks.
He's the worst.
Yeah. But I guess it goes to show that the character is a good actor.
I said out loud because I was a little slow, but like
Hmm.
halfway through the movie, I said his name is Guy. How perfect.
Yes, he is the guy.
We have a good house too, the
Yes.
apartment that you mentioned.
Right.
The exterior is a real building, the
Ooh.
Dakota building in New
Ooh.
York. It's the building where John Lennon was shot in front of.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I knew that actually. Yeah.
And the interior is a soundstage.
Is it really?
Yeah.
No. What a bummer.
Yeah. They have a very specific layout. Ira Levin sketched out what
Yeah.
the apartment would look like, and this book is so faithful. They basically built that.
I guess it like makes sense, but it's just a bummer. Like I wish that somewhere in the future you would be able to go to the Dakota and go up to one of the apartments and see it exactly like it is. Um,
Mhm.
oh, that's kind of a bummer, but it's beautiful nonetheless. Super huge, like ceilings way up high. I don't understand how. I mean, it's probably has something to do with the fact that they wanted them there. If you get into like the backstory or whatever, but just one actor's income to be able to afford this beautiful place. But also, it's the '60s, so could you imagine like being an actor
Right.
who just has booked like one commercial and a couple of plays and has to support a wife and soon to be devil child, being able to afford this beautiful apartment? That's what's wrong with the economy. That's why there's no, second coming of Jesus or a devil. It's because the economy just can't support it right now.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely
One thing
ridiculous.
about it being an older apartment is it's big, but there's only like 4 rooms, like, and the
Yeah,
kitchen's really small
right.
because it's a New
Well,
York apartment.
yeah, and I don't know if it they keep talking about how they like cut up the apartments too. Like their
Mm,
apartment is like the back of, I think it is the Cassavetes or something. I don't know. It's kind of confusing, but a bunch of the apartments have been like cut up, I think. Um and I love the elevator with the that thing, the
mhm.
iron door. Oh, so good.
And the elevator operator,
Right. Yes, they need an elevator operator in there. Yeah.
because it's like there's not buttons, it's a lever. It's so fun.
Yeah.
I do like when she gets in the elevator and controls it herself, and
Yeah.
like it's like a video game. It's like you've never played a video game before, and you've got to
Right.
move the joystick to get the elevator just right. That part's cool.
Yes. Yeah. I know. And it's like, I didn't realize how lucky we have it that elevators just stop on the right floor, because there was a time where you could just stop it in between two and then I would never get out because I would be afraid of getting crushed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you could just, like,
Yeah, that's right.
go,
Kill
like
someone. Yeah.
Yeah. So, love the house,
Hmm.
and then last but not least, we have our haunt.
Hunt.
It's Satan, but I do have 2 joke answers. I
Hmm.
love a joke answer for the
Of
haunt.
course.
One, the haunt is all natural organic diets.
Yeah. Got to avoid them.
Mhm. Like, if someone is telling you, like, maybe don't take the medicine your doctor prescribed, take
Right.
these herbs I crushed up in my kitchen," be wary.
Be very wary. Don't trust bad smelling herbs in a little
No,
pendant. That's fucking weird.
absolutely not.
Knock it off.
And then the other haunt is another one we still grapple with today.
Mm.
Naked old people.
Yeah.
I thought it was a more modern thing, naked
Mm.
old people, because 'cause they're in Hereditary and, a lot of other modern horror movies,
Yeah.
but Rosemary's Baby seems to have originated the trope of naked old
Naked
people.
old people. Should that be a bonus gothic? Because I feel
It
like it
might have
keeps
to be.
coming up. Yeah.
Mhm.
Naked old people, definitely. Yeah.
But is this our first time we've had Satan himself as our haunt? I think it is.
I think it might be. I think sometimes we get into like sort of demony stuff, but yeah, I think Satan is
Not the big one, the big
the
one,
the big guy.
the devil. I love when
The,
people call Satan the devil.
the devil. I know, right? It sounds so like it sounds very Southern Gothic. The devil.
Yes.
The,
It's so cute, the
the
devil.
devil.
Like, that just makes me think he's got little red horns and a little pitchfork.
Yeah, right. I know. I wonder what he like. What is he doing? Like, is he in the apartment building the whole time? Like, what is? How does he spend his days?
Yeah, I'm a little confused.
Right.
Yeah, and these old people can just summon him
Right. Yeah. It's
Part
such
of it
I
must be his choice.
yes. Yeah, he gets a choice. Rosemary doesn't. Um I love the fact that it's such a weird eccentric group of old people. Like they're, and I'm sure it's the point is they are not what you think of when you think of devil worshiper witches. They're like, to be fair, like I would love hanging out with this group of old people. They look like so much. I've said it before. Like I get along with old people so much better than any other demographic. I love little old ladies. They love me. I would have such a ball with these people. I wouldn't even realize I was summoning Satan until it was too late because I would just be having such a blast.
I like they make cocktails.
They make a lot of cocktails and they're always like pouring it right up to the brim.
Mm-hmm.
So much fun. And they have a great apartment. And
I
apparently
want.
they take in like wayward women from the street. It's great.
They make them a vodka blush.
Yeah, blush. Yeah. They're traveling all the time. They're just having a
They're global.
they're so global. They're having a great time,
There's a lot of money in devil worshipping.
apparently.
Ira Levin, the author, to
Hmm.
go back to him for a moment, is a very gothic author.
Oh yeah.
The three books, Sliver, Rosemary's Baby, and Stepford Wives, all are almost the identical plot. There's your gothic girl.
Yep.
There's a guy who is of varying levels of danger / betrayal.
Hmm.
There's a cool environment. He does a cool apartment building again in Sliver.
Mm.
And then, I mean, this is the only one with the devil, but there's some sort of like cultural weirdness happening
Mm.
in the
Okay.
background.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna if you didn't hate Stepford Wives so much, I was gonna say maybe we should do that one.
The movie is completely different.
Really? Okay.
The book takes place around this same time. It's a little later. It's in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's post like women have jobs and
Mm.
um birth control and women's choice. And it leans more into that because they're getting replaced. So all the
Right.
women are getting replaced.
Mm.
And then the movie makes Nicole Kidman a reality TV show executive.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Very strange choice. Matthew Broderick is her husband. Like, ew.
No.
Like Nicole Kidman and Matthew
Right.
Broderick, absolutely not.
Seriously. I mean, I to be fair, he got Sarah Jessica Parker in real life. So
I think there's again, she's a real life gothic girl. She's trapped.
she's
Someone
trapped in
check
there.
on her. So we
Oh.
do have a bonus gothic in this one. Our new
Mhm.
bonus gothic of doors.
Doors. That's right. I forgot about that. Yes, lots of doors.
Lots of doors. Honestly, doors are huge in this one, especially for an apartment with only 4 rooms. Like there's a
Yes,
lot of doors.
a lot of doors. Like we mentioned, the door to the elevator. There's a beautiful door to the outside of the apartment. I also don't understand how this apartment building works. Like if it's sections, if there's just like one door you enter for like, I don't know, say like 1 through 10, and then like a different section because the lobby's quite small.
Mm,
But anyways, sorry, I just like kind of realized that door placement is weird. But yeah, a lot of doors.
lot of doors.
Hmm.
I don't think there were any other ones. We're really missing out on a cat and
Did
old
one
people
of
playing
the
piano.
I was just gonna say, did one of the old people play a piano at some point? I thought I kind of vaguely remember that, but I could be wrong.
I don't recall.
Yeah. Yeah. If
They
it
don't
happened,
seem they seem like they're too busy socializing
that's
and
true.
worshiping to do that.
Yeah,
They would just put
maybe
on a record.
yeah, maybe they put, their vodka blush on the piano or something. They were using it as
Mm,
like a table. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Well, with that in mind, how would you rate this on our gothic scale? So gothic, gothish, or no gothic?
I'm putting it in so gothic.
This is so gothic.
This is so gothic. Yeah. I mean, this is like almost textbook gothic.
The gothicist.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Gothicist. Yes.
Well, great. Excellent. I'm glad we got to talk about this movie because it is a classic.
Mm-hmm.
and disappointed the new one is bad. We won't be talking about that one.
Yeah, but I will watch the NBC one.
I recommend it. It's long, but it doesn't feel long because they did it as a mini series, so it's two like hour and 40-minute parts.
Oh, okay.
And the first one ends with her getting pregnant. So you have the pre-pregnancy and then she's pregnant in the second half.
Yeah.
And again, since the details are different, it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
The
right?
acting is good.
Okay.
Highly recommend. So what else are you watching, reading, enjoying, Amanda?
I honestly don't. So I was trying to think today of what I was going to say for this. And I honestly haven't really been watching or reading a whole lot lately. I mean, we just saw Cuckoo, which I enjoyed. I know it's a little divided, but I don't really like talking about new movies. I don't know. It's just it feels like if you're going to see it, you're going to see it, you know? So I was going through my list of books that I've read recently. And actually the last couple of books I've read, I wouldn't necessarily recommend, but I've been reading a lot of Paul Tremblay books. I don't know if I've talked about him before on the podcast or if I've recommended. I might have recommended one of his books before, but I'm almost done reading all of his books except for he wrote Cabin at the End of the World, which became an M. Night Shyamalan movie. I haven't read that. And I haven't read Disappearance at Devil Rock, which is actually sitting right next to me right now. But anyways, all of this to say, though, is that he is actually, so not to give away too much of our personal whereabouts or anything, but he is going to be at the Merrimack Valley Halloween Book Festival on October 19th in Haverhill. So I that's my recommendation this week is go to that festival. It's at the Haverhill Public Library. It's super duper fun. He's going to be there signing books. I'm actually really excited. I went last year and was a little overwhelmed. And I feel like last year there weren't a ton of great authors. There was the author who wrote Bird Box, Josh Mallerman. But this year there's a lot of really great ones. There's Paul Tremblay. There's Jennifer McMahon. She wrote The Winter People, I think it's called. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of great authors there. October 19th, I think, Saturday. And I really like Paul Tremblay's books. The last one I read was his newest one. It's called Horror Movie. And I might have recommended that already, which if I have, I'm so sorry. But it was really good. Very creepy. I do recommend it.
Yes, and we're in Massachusetts, and he's a Massachusetts boy, right?
Yes. He's in the general area. Yeah. I really enjoy his work. I think my favorite book of his is Head Full of Ghosts. It's like a possession story. He seems to do a lot of, not a lot. I mean, I guess that in horror movie where it's almost like found footage style or not even found footage, but through the eyes of a production, like a movie production or TV production show. And I just really, really enjoy reading horror like that. It's very immersive to me. So Head Full of Ghosts, I really recommend. And his last one, Horror Story, I really recommend. And go see him at the book festival.
Love that.
Yeah. How about you? What's been on your docket?
So I'm going to recommend a video game this week.
Ooh.
I'm going to recommend Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom for the Nintendo Switch.
Yay.
This is the first Zelda game in which you can play as Princess Zelda herself.
Stop.
There was this doomed pseudo console called the Philips CDI in the 90s.
Okay.
And there were 2 Zelda discs made for it that I don't think were produced by Nintendo. They just licensed the characters.
Oh.
And you can play as Zelda in one of those, but they're notoriously bad and not considered official. Oddly, we had a Philips CDI in my 4th grade classroom. And I used to play a Richard Scarry Busy Town game on it.
That's so
So
cute.
very fond of that. But anyway,
Yeah.
this game's great. So Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, it is more of a traditional Zelda in that it's got the top-down style
Mm.
from the Super Nintendo era, but it brings in the freewheeling creativity of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, in that Zelda is given this rod of wisdom, and it allows her to conjure up objects and enemies. So she can learn different things. Any enemy you defeat, you can then create a copy of, and they fight for you.
Ooh.
So it's so fun to figure out what enemies are a good match against the enemies that you're facing.
Right.
And then a lot of it is just trying to navigate the environment. So I bet if I'm on social media, there's probably a lot of Zelda Twitter memes about her just making stairs out of beds, which you do a lot.
Oh.
So, because it's kind of Minecraft in that you kind of think of things in blocks.
Right.
So, with a bed being 2 blocks, you can off put them and make staircases out of beds
Yeah.
and get places. So, you do that a lot, but it's really fun. And I just got to a part where you can conjure up a cube of water
Ooh.
and you can stack them. So, you can put them next to a cliff and then just swim up the side of a cliff.
That's so
It's
fun.
so fun, and it's really funny. Zelda wears a cloak, and no one recognizes her, even though she looks exactly the same, but with the
Yeah.
hood. They'll be like, "Have you seen the princess?" And then she'll take the hood off, and they'll be like, "Oh my god, it's you." And what I like about it, besides everything I just mentioned, is that the characters, even though they're the little characters again, they're so expressive,
Really?
and I feel like Nintendo has taken the Miis that they've kind of forgotten. The Mii
Mm.
isn't a big thing anymore,
Yeah.
but the Miis had very distinctive movements and like facial expressions.
Yeah.
And I feel like they've just taken that programming and put it in all the little characters. They're all so expressive. They move, their eyes get wide when they're shocked.
Yeah.
It's so cute. The world's just so full of life. There's little birds and stuff in the trees. Like they've made the old school classic Zelda world just look alive and fun. And the way
Oh,
you can use a trampoline, jump up in a tree and just like walk across the treetops. Like
I
it has
love
that
that.
freedom. It's so neat. So I highly recommend that game, Echoes of Wisdom.
Oh, good. Good. Is that newer? Is that like the newest game?
Yeah, it just came out
Okay.
about 2 weeks prior to this recording.
Oh, okay. All right.
I've not gotten to play it as much as I would like, but
Mm.
and maybe it's for the best that it doesn't have a counter of how long you've spent
Mm.
playing, because I would just watch that tick up with Tears of the Kingdom, and once it got over 100, I was like, "Maybe it's time for me to wrap this up." But
Yeah.
if it didn't have the counter, who knows when I would have stopped?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I don't know, that's actually kind of interesting to think about. If I didn't know how long I'd spent playing on it,
Yeah.
would I have played it for more or less? I'm probably more.
Mm. I definitely think I'm a notoriously bad video game player. I like very, very, very easy games. So I tried playing Breath of the Wild, and even that was too challenging for me.
It's a hard game, to be
Yeah.
fair.
So I am very interested in this new one. I'll have to watch some YouTube videos about it.
This one has a scalable difficulty, and the
Mm,
easy felt very, very easy to me, which
okay.
is nice. I should say very accessible.
Yes.
I turned it up to the harder
Yeah.
mode to add a little bit of challenge for me, and
Right.
then that might be too hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. But I like that you can toggle it at any time. So
Oh,
if I decide
nice.
it's too hard, I can just bump it back down for a bit.
Yeah. Nice. Very good.
Nintendo's games are very accessible lately. Zelda's still in its own kind of realm, but the
Yes.
Mario games and other games like
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
really good at varying their
Yeah.
accessibility.
Actually, because one of the few games I am playing right now is Luigi's Mansion 2 and on the Switch. So, oh, do you love Luigi's Mansion 2?
I love Luigi's Mansion
Yes,
too.
and that one
Yeah.
is mostly easy enough for me.
Ah, I love that. Luigi's great.
Yeah, yes. I loved it. Quick side note, like I went to New York City a couple of weeks ago and it was kind of a nightmare. We stayed right in Times Square. It was horrible. I might have talked about this already, um, or at least told you about it, but I do not like Times Square. I do not like Manhattan. I don't know that there's anyone in the world who really does like it, but the only silver lining of that whole trip was going to the Nintendo store. It feels like home. It's just like so Nintendo. It's like I'm not even a video game person. I didn't even grow up with Nintendo, but like hearing you talk about this Zelda game and like how sweet it is that you can actually play as Zelda, like it's just it feels so joyful, Nintendo games.
I agree. I haven't
Yeah.
been to the Nintendo store in so long.
Mm.
The last time I went was the year of Luigi,
Ooh.
and Luigi and I are the same age. So Luigi was created the year I was born.
Yeah,
And Luigi's my favorite, one of my favorite Mario characters.
I
So
love
being
him.
there during the year of Luigi was very special for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's so sweet. You and
Love
Luigi.
Nintendo.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's so good.
I love that it is name dropped in Sabrina Carpenter's Espresso as well.
It is. Switch it up like Nintendo.
That I just love that.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's so good.
Mhm. Well, thank you, Amanda, and thank you, Ghosties, for listening to us talk about Rosemary's Baby. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can rate and review us on Apple Podcast or Spotify, and share us with a friend. Until next time, stay ghosty. Bye-bye.
Bye.